I'm joined now by a person who is a key player in the agri space in Nigeria. He is an agribusiness expert, Dr. Ayodeji Ajisefinni. Thank you, Doctor, for coming on the program today.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me here today.
Doctor, let us start off with, the food inflation rate rising to 40.8% in the month of June of 2024. And according to the NBS, these rises we saw were, seen in specific food products such as, or food produce such as, palm oil, oils, groundnut oil, as well as tubers such as cocoa yam, water yam, yams generally, as well as, bread. Bread was also mentioned, and the price of catfish and croaker fish products as well. But let's hear from you. What would you say, are the factors that drove the unprecedented rise that were witnessed in those particular food produce?
Thank you very much. Looking at what is happening in Nigeria today, and I would like to quote from what the President of Africa Development Bank said: Nigeria should not depend on foreign food, which we have been doing before now. The specific products you made mention have been neglected totally. We raise attention on basic things, neglected those that needs to be prioritized. What we need to do in Nigeria is to re-strategize and reprioritize the food sector. We have the short-term food sector that can give us revenue and relief. We have the medium, we have the long-term. As we are planning, we should plan along with the duration of their gestation. We should look at how do we segment and encourage the production of these products according to where they are more concentrated. How do we encourage the farmers that are in these products? For example, palm oil. We know that the eastern part of Nigeria is concentrated with palm oil processing. They have a lot of palm trees. Not that there is no other states in Nigeria or region in Nigeria. Why don't we encourage the farmers that are in that sector? This relief, 150 days relief, should be given to those farmers to have their own processing plants instead of the continuous usage of manual processing. Now in Nigeria, our population is growing higher, and the number of quantity, the quantity of liters of palm oil that are coming from that level, from that region, has not increased. Something like cocoa yam, tubers generally. Within the tubers region, we have the ones that are short-term, medium-term. Why don't we encourage the farmers in that region too? It is high time for us to look inward and re-strategize and put each food sector according to time frame of their gestation and what do they need. How can we improve them? Because importation of our food, turning Nigeria to be a dumping ground of food consumption, will not help us. It will always continue to increase our inflation. Rather, why can't we find a way to increase our own productivity and start exporting our products?
Well said, Doctor. But I'd like to point out something also. One of the products or produce rather that had gained in the past 1 month was produce in the area of fisheries such as catfish, croaker fish, and the likes. We did see recently the introduction of the Ministry of Livestock, and unfortunately, when livestock and conversations around livestock are introduced, focus is mostly on cattle and not so much on poultry, fishery, and the likes. So I'd like for us to speak, regarding that. What kind of support do livestock, or should livestock farmers in the area of fishery and poultry, away from livestock now, get, especially at this time, since we're seeing also food inflation being impacted in the fishery sector?
Thank you once again. When we are talking about livestock, it's not only on cattle or cow. We are talking generally on cattle, fish, poultry, wild animals. Likewise, the fish. Specifically in Nigeria, we so much concentrated our production locally on catfish and tilapia, while croaker are imported fish. Well, we can encourage our youth into the feed of tilapia fish and catfish by having cluster of integrated livestock farming centers. How do I mean? We have a section within the hub where there will be goat rearing and dairy farming. We have in a section where we have animal production, and we have in an area where we can have catfish. If there is no access to stream, we can have concrete tanks there and the waste from that place becomes an input to the feed where we have our grazing unit. We should not rely only on red meat production. We should look at the aspect of the white meat, because there is high demand of white meat now than the red meat. We should consider and encourage young people that are interested in this. And let's see how each state government that are owned, that are best owned in the area of open feed, where they can have clusters or hub of livestock. And they see how we can encourage our youth, train them, give them the word of encouragement, give them the zeal. And what do I mean by the zeal? Support them by having the technical skill, the management skill, and what it needs to do it. You cannot. Fattening of animals generally is within a short period. When we are talking about poultry, look at egg production, look at meat production. When we are talking about goatry, is it for dairy? Is it for meat? All this has to be analyzed, and we select people of interest to do this. And I believe by so doing, there is no how we will be talking about food without talking about animal protein. And the only way we can get animal protein is through encouraging people to do more of this.
Well said. Let us go on a short break. When we return, the conversation continues this day. And you're still watching Business Daily, coming to you live on Trust TV. And just before the break, we started a conversation analyzing the recent data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, showing that Nigeria's inflation rate had risen to 34.19% in the month of June. And also in that report, the NBS stated that Nigeria's food inflation rate had risen from 40.66% to 40.87% in the month of June. And according to the NBS, we did see this growth being attributed to specific areas in the food cycle, such as oils, palm oil, groundnut oil, tubers, cocoyam, water yams generally, as well as fishery, croaker fish, and some other fishes as well. But I still have my guest here with me, who's an agribusiness expert, Dr. Ayodeji Ajisefinni. Thank you, Doctor, again for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Okay, Doctor, I will like for us to start now, with conversation still on food inflation. You had started off by talking as to, what could have driven this unprecedented rise in food inflation. But now let's look at the impact of these on households, generally speaking. Okay, what specific impact would you say you have seen happen, with household spending and household consumption of food, especially lower income households?
Malnutrition, non-balanced diet is existing in some of the households. It's what they can say they eat, not what they want to eat. And you know what that does on earth. More money will be spent on earth management now, because they are not taking balanced diet. It's what is available on ground that they will take. And nowadays, there is nothing like 111 again. It's either 101 or 011. You know what that means? You take breakfast, you don't take lunch, you take dinner. Or you only take breakfast, you omit the lunch, you take dinner. And it's not even a balanced diet, because the purchasing power is no longer there. How do you expect them to cope? Buying a loaf of bread. In the family that we take about 4 loads of bread, they are now taking 1.
I believe the last time I checked, a loaf of bread was almost 2,000 naira. A crate of eggs was almost 5,000
naira. Egg now is becoming a seasonal food, maybe during the Christmas. It's no longer a regular thing. Eat 1 egg per day is no longer existing. It's either eat 1 egg per season.
Per season?
That's it. Because 30 pieces of egg is how much? For a family of 4 children, that means that a crate of egg cannot last them for 1 month. And it's not only for the low-income earners, it's also affecting the so-called rich. The rich also cry. Because it's very difficult to find any household to buy minimum or buy more than 1 or 2 bags of rice every month any longer. That's to tell you there is food, but the purchasing power is not there. Then, what is the cost? Was it like this before? If not, what were we doing before that makes it not to exist? What can we do? The bread, I have a friend that is a baker. He was telling me yesterday that they cannot get flour to produce bread again. And that brings me back to how we have cassava, we have sweet potato. Why not our research people go into that and see how we can do that? And we have wheat. Must we be importing wheat? No. There are so many land in Nigeria that is for wheat production. How can we encourage these people? I think it's the best time for the strategic thinkers in this administration to look at how can we repackage agric generally, product by product basis. What is the way forward?
Gladly
not that they are not doing their best, they are. But the more they do, the more we see more revelation of our weakness in the sector. We are talking about sweet potato. We are talking about Irish potato. We are talking about yam. A tuber of yam is nothing less than 3,000 now that we are producing in Nigeria. People now prefer to produce yam here and export, not to even sell to Nigerians. Why is it like that? God bless us in Nigeria. It's left to us to bless ourselves.
Doctor, you've said something. You say people would produce or farm yam here in Nigeria and would rather export rather than sell here in Nigeria. So that brings, up the question around this inflation. Are there artificial elements to it? Could this inflation have, some element of artificial push in it?
There is element of artificial push in inflationary system of Nigeria, especially in the food sector. Take for instance, the 150 days grace of importing foodstuff into Nigeria. We encourage the local farmers to upgrade their own price. Yes, we are talking about a pricing system. Do we have a coordinated pricing system or price control system? It is no longer everybody is doing anything at his will. Farmers can wake up today, or marketers can wake up today and say this is the price they are selling today because a dollar is 150 or 1,200 per dollar. Now my own cost of food will go to this because the dollar rate has increased. Nigerian government needs more advocacy on so many things. Don't let us be killing ourselves. Yes, we know the problem is there, but don't let us be another problem maker or problem creator within the house.
You've mentioned price control methods, and I am wondering what would be the most efficient price control method, because I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago I saw the Oni of Ife, yes, go to the market to give his own price for certain commodities, saying, oh, pepper should not be sold more than this, yam should not be sold more than this. And then the question now is, who really should be responsible, for price control? We have heard from the FCCPC, who have tried in the past, but that we haven't seen results yet. So who then should be shouldered with this responsibility of price control?
I think the best thing is for the government or Ministry of Agri to have a committee in collaboration with FCCPC, and this committee must include the stakeholders, the farmers representative, the market women. And even before you talk about the market women, let's talk about the farmers, because a lot of things are happening and we are doing it wrongly with the farmers. Ask an average farmer, how many acres of land are you using to cultivate your land? They all use best judgment. It's not every farmer that can specifically say, I am working on 1 hectare of land. I am working on 1 acre of land. It's not every farmer. It's not every farmer that keep good record of what is spent. The aspect of financial costing needs to be imbibed at elementary level to our farmers if we want price control to work, because it is when we are able to come up with economic of production and we are able to download it to the farmers. Look, what is the size of your farm? You have 1 acre, which is about 6 or 8 plots, depends on the location. This is what you are expected to make out of this farm. This is number of seed you are to plant on this farm. This is number of labor you are to use, and this is the average amount you are to pay your labor. This is number of fertilizer you are to use. If all these things can be downloaded to the farmers at elementary level, using their own way of understanding it, by so doing, our cost of production will be managed. That look, this is the template. government wants us to use. Government is ready to subsidize. You are not buying fertilizer at this price again. You are not buying the seed at this price again. You are buying at this price, lower than the normal price. Meaning that at the end of the day, you know this is your profit margin. Every farmer will know that me going to the farm, this is what I'm expected to make. But unfortunately, it's not like that again. It is what comes out of it. We know the issue of insecurity is a predominant thing, but we will not say because of insecurity, we will not farm again. That's why the issue of farm settlement needs to come back. If we want to reduce inflation in Nigeria, we need to go back to the practice of farm settlement, whereby government implementation policies can be implemented on that farm settlement. We know it's not easy to go to the rural area to implement all the policies, but in every local government, if we are able to have all those, we have at least some hectares of land for specific products, and there is a mandate. All the challenges we are facing, we are able to solve at least 70% of it at that commercial center. Price can be controlled. Means that if you want to buy tomato at this government price, go to shop A. That is where you can get at that price. If you are now complaining, look at the decentralization in fuel system now. Somebody is selling at price X, another is selling at price A. It's now left to you to go to where it's convenient for you to buy. I think that is my own view, that all the policies of the federal government or state government or local government should be implemented on the basis of farm settlement. And let's prepare the minds of farmers into this is short-term produce that can help you. This is medium term and this is long term. We all know that tubers, especially cassava and yam, is nothing less than 12 months before it becomes something that can turn to money. What about vegetables that has lesser time? Why can't we concentrate more on vegetable to increase our exports? There are some countries that need our fresh vegetable. What are we doing about it? Look at ugu, for example. Look at our ewedu. Look at our efo. All these things are things that can be exported outside if we encourage the farmers that are in that sector. Let's revive our cargo units where we can be exporting our products on a daily basis. By so doing, it will force down the price, and the issue of inflation may be a little bit controlled in that area.
Well said, Doctor. Especially your argument on farm settlement and of course exporting as well, which will strengthen the value of the naira and affect the welfare of Nigerians positively. But let us talk now on seasonal farming. You are someone that has hammered on the need for an all-round farming season, I should say. I recently watched an interview by a media house with the Minister of State for Agriculture, I believe in the person of Minister Aliyu Abdullahi, where he spoke to issues around an all-round farming season, talking about how we haven't utilized the dry farming season as we ought to. Would you agree with that school of thought? And would you recommend that these has also, impacted in food inflation generally?
Capital yes. You remember I said it on this station and I'm repeating it. Most of the food we are consuming now was what farmers planted during the dry season. And how many number of the farmers did that? Very limited number. And whatever we are planting now will be consumed during what? During dry season. When some people are on the farm planting, what we are producing now is what they will consume. Who will fill the gap? What we need to do in Nigeria, which other countries are doing, where we are even importing these foods from, is some of them don't even have the blessed we have in Nigeria. The water, the stream, the rivers, some of these African countries don't have it. It's by artificial creation of how can we get it right. It's what I believe should be done. Go back to that farm settlement. In the farm settlement, there are ways we can have it. I know the cost of irrigation system is capital intensive, which individual farmer cannot face. But with the support of government, it's not compulsory we must choose the most expensive irrigation system. But let's encourage our farmers at that farm settlement, which the federal government proposed 500 hectares to be cleared I'll be 500,000 hectares to be cleared. Let's appeal and let their dream come to reality. Let's know what we are calculating is each state we have about 33,000 hectares in Nigeria. If that comes to reality, you know what that means? And all the infrastructures are there. We have irrigation system, we have a mechanized system in place. Farmers will be happy to go, but not using all year-round farming. We will continue. We don't pray for it, but it will continue to go. And the inflationary rate, well, with the intervention of monetary policy maybe, but with the way we are producing food, it may not work because our population is higher than the output from the farm.
So the question now is, can Nigerian farmers at this moment produce enough to feed our over 205 million population?
If only if we are able to get what the farmers need.
So we cannot at this moment?
At this moment, there's nothing impossible. There may wake up tomorrow, do we know who is watching? And say, okay, this policy has to be implemented. What do you people need as a farmer? Let's aggregate the whole farmers. We have over 3 or 10 million farmers. Let's take, for example, 10 million farmers. And each of them are planting maybe 1 hectare of rice farm. And they are able to achieve minimum of 4 tons per hectare. That means 10 million hectares multiplied by 4. That's 40,000, 40 million kilo of paddy rice will be coming out. You know what that means? We are getting close to our population. Because whatever we should be producing in Nigeria now, if you have 250 million population, can we produce 150 million output? That should be the calculation. The first 6 months, we are targeting 100 million. The next 6 months, we are targeting 150. The next 6 months, we are targeting 200 million. That means that 1 kilo of food per person. By the grace of God, we have excess food, even to export. And I know Nigerian farmers can do it if they can have access to their requests.
You've given us very practical solutions, short-term solutions, long-term solutions. But there is an elephant in the room that has been attributed to a major challenge in the agri space, and that is climate change, which is said to have become a growing concern in the area of agriculture. As I speak right now, there is, rising water levels across state, and farmers are unable to go to their farms because of flooding, for instance, Lagos State, and some other states as well. So let us touch on that briefly. How would you say, or what would you say are the solutions to the issues of climate change, short-term solutions, especially to fix the problem of flooding now?
You see, the issue of flooding, the climate, the people that read studies or give us the climate condition every season has informed us that there is possibility of having flood in some part of the state. And when we are talking about flood, let's talk to ourselves. How do we manage it from our own domestic environment? Little rain, more all drainage being blocked. By putting refuse, immediately there is rain. Every household, some household will just throw their refuse in the gutter. Little flood turn to become big. And because the water don't have access to go through its own path, what do you think will happen then? It will destroy the farm. And this contributed to it. This is a natural disaster, which is out of anybody's control. But our only little control is we as citizens. Let's stop the attitude of blocking the drainage. Wherever government or the people responsible for the management of flood has created as a pathway for water, let's maintain it. That is just my own suggestion to that. It is a natural disaster.
Unfortunately so.
So very unfortunately. But the little that we as human beings can control, don't let us contribute to it.
Okay, before we go now, Doctor, what measures can the private sector play? You have emphasized what federal government, state government, local government should do, but not so much has been said about, the private sector.
It is when there is conducive atmosphere that investors will like to come and invest. Like the federal government has opened door for free tax and free entrance of food. I will still repeat, they should please give some tax free to some private sectors that want to invest into the value chain of agribusiness and security, power. A lot of industry has closed down because of lack of power. I mean electricity. Green energy is what so many people are going into. I know it's capital intensive, and financial institutions are not too conversant with the system of it. Green energy is a long-term load. If we can have government intervention into that green energy for private sectors that are in value chain, I think more people will be interested in investing, and more people will be interested in bringing in the equipment required for mechanization in Nigeria. Government alone cannot do it. We need more than 1 million tractors in Nigeria for us to be sustainable.
So you're calling for tax incentives for the private sector to invest in the agri-space?
Yes. If there are some tax holiday for investors in agri sector, I think things will work well for us. Because look at poultry. Why is the egg we are buying at 300 naira per crate is now 5,000 naira? Maize is the major input in the feed. A kilo of maize is almost 800 naira per kilo. Something we bought at 80 naira, we are still complaining, is now almost 800 naira per kilo. And it took nothing less than 55 to 60% in each bag of the feed. Talk of the soya or GNC. All this, we need to work on it. More farmers to work on the production of some input, and we should learn not to be sending out our raw materials. Let's add value to them here in Nigeria. Why do we need to plant some raw food here, export it to another country, and re-import it back? That too affects our pricing. Let those companies abroad come to Nigeria and have their processing plants here in Nigeria. It will help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayodeji Ajisefinni, for the very insightful conversation on how to reduce or deflate Nigeria's rising inflation and food inflation specifically. Like I stated, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, food inflation had risen to 40.87% in the month of June from 40.66% in the month of May. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program, but join the conversation on social media. Let us hear directly from you. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.